Now, how about them damn Celtics?
And we are back with another episode of How About Them Celtics. Sam and I are here recording on Wednesday, January 8th, after the Celtics win over the Nuggets, after their loss to the Thunder, after the whole road trip, in between games, little 2-day break here as they travel back home. Is it a 2-day break? No, they play tomorrow, don't they?
Well, there's no game Wednesday, no game Thursday.
I'm not. No game. Oh, there is. Wait, really?
Yeah, they play Friday night, Sacramento.
Schedule. Oh, okay. I thought you were doing the whole thing, but you're right. Yes, I thought they played Thursday. How you doing, Sam? What's up?
Doing good. Pretty happy with the road trip. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about just general things to come back. We'll talk about the defense. Former Celtic going to be a part of NBA broadcast going forward. Pretty exciting stuff there. We'll go through your emails. We'll go around the league, update you on the standings, update you on all the NBA tea. This is the best time of year for NBA tea, so get your tea bags ready because we're going for a dip. You can also stick around for the rat list because we will have things to complain about. It would not be a show without that. But again, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. We're here every day. So if you want Celtics content, we're here for you. Full pods Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. We have game recaps morning after each game. And other videos are up in between to keep you up to date with all things C's. We're also live for pregame. Those are a ton of fun. Half hour before every single game on this channel, on Twitter, and on Facebook. So come and hang out if you're new.
That tea was funny. I like that. That made me laugh.
I'm on a hot streak making you laugh this week. That's twice.
That was good. That was good. Catch me off guard. Well, it's different. I just don't laugh at the same jokes because I've heard most of the jokes.
You're numb to a lot of it.
Yeah, you're making.
I don't take it personal. I understand. But it just makes it that much sweeter when I get you to laugh. Like when they were like, how'd you guys meet? And I said Hinge and you lost it. It made my week.
It was good. It was good. Let's jump into the Celtics. So the defense math is something I wrote about. We talked about it a little bit after the Nuggets game. We could talk about it some more because it's been a pretty common trend. Not even just this year, but ever since Joe Mazzulla took over. Basically, it is we're going to send extra pressure at guys who are usually scorers and let some role players shoot. And sometimes it gets taken to too far of an extreme where they're literally wide open. Sometimes it's just let's get a later closeout like Caleb Martin on Christmas, pretty wide open. Russell Westbrook against the Nuggets, relatively covered for most of them, but they definitely sent pressure away from him and towards Jamal Murray. Happening against the Timberwolves with Julius Randle and Jade McDaniels in favor of frustrating Anthony Edwards. Happening against the Rockets because, well, frankly, they're not an amazing offensive team. Happening against the Thunder with Lou Dort. Like it's a thing now. It has consistently been a thing. It's not just something the Celtics have tried out. It is what they choose to do on defense. And I wrote about it. And look, it's not really a regular season strategy, but they're doing it in the regular season, which is fine. But I feel like a lot of the frustrations that come out of it are a lot of optics stuff rather than actually whether or not it works. Because what Joe Mazzulla is basically saying is, we know what these guys are as shooters. We're going to focus on guarding the primary offensive players. And as you saw in the playoffs last year, the Heat got hot for one game, but it didn't really matter because it all regressed to mean the rest of the series. Isaac Okoro was left wide open in the Cavs series, right? The Pacers had some guys open. The Celtics basically said, if you're not named Luka or Kyrie, we're going to let you shoot. And it worked, right? The math game has worked for the Celtics in that way. But on a game-to-game basis in the regular season, when you're playing a different team every night, sometimes guys will get hot and it's frustrating to watch. I truly do believe it is a valid strategy in the long run, but I also do think the people who say you're a good enough defensive team, why do you need to do that, also have a point. So I think it's a little bit of a back and forth there for this weird. I called it Mazzulla math for my article.
Mazzulla math. I'm trying to think of like a quippy way to say like giving or charity, like Mazzulla I got nothing. Not a lot of good alliteration. Basically, Joe's like, hey, here's some free shots for you. I get it. I think this makes sense in a situation. I said it to you on the post-game thing yesterday where it was like, sure, like if it's Christmas Day and Tyrese Maxey is a man possessed and you can't stop him, you have to help off of somebody. Maybe against Denver with no Jokic, you don't really have to help off of anybody too much. And like you said, the Westbrook stuff wasn't too drastic. You can pull it up if you want just to showcase it. If you don't want to, you don't want to. But like, I don't think this should be their go-to thing every time. The more and more Joe talks about strategy, and like, listen, they just won a championship. Like, I don't think we should all be questioning Joe. But at the same time, I don't like every time we hear about something that it's just like, yeah, well, We're going to leave it up to chance because this is what should happen. Now, when it's a 7-game series, it feels like you're not going to get hoed by chance, which is basically what you had to say. You're just not
Yes.
going to. But in one game, and which is what we're seeing this season, it is very possible to get hoed by chance. We saw them get hoed by chance in game 2 in the first round and second round last year, and also game 4 against the Mavs in the finals. It's just what happened. It's what it took for them to lose games. But in the regular season, it's far more likely when you're playing a different team every day, and some guys can just be like, look, it's my time to shine. Finally, something to wake me up from the slog of the 82 game season. So here's how they defended Russ, the 3-point god, wide open.
Yeah. Russ got his first one wide open because they were guarding the paint with Russell Westbrook. I'm just going to describe it for the audio listeners. Russ is in the corner again with Jrue Holiday on him. He helps in to stunt a Michael Porter Jr. drive, leaves him open again, makes a second one in the corner. Now Russ is in the corner again, and Pritchard is just 1 foot in the paint, stunting a Jamal Murray drive. Tries to close out a little bit. Russ misses. He got 9 3-point attempts in this one. Same thing. Sam Hauser helps over, has a late contest. Russ misses again. Next one, Russ drives on Jaylen Brown, kicks it to the corner for Christian Brown. Jaylen Brown contests his entire shot, but Russ makes it anyways. But he wasn't left open on that one.
No.
Next, Russ on the wing, late closeout from Jrue Holiday. Russ misses. Next one, Russ at the top of the key. Luke Cornett's not guarding him. He's sinking down, and Russ makes a shot. Next one is Christian Brown drives on Al Horford. Jrue Holiday kind of loses Russ and then gets a late contest. I don't think that was an intentional one. I think Jrue just lost him a little bit off the ball. Next one, they intentionally leave Russ from the corner, but Luke recovers and blocks him. So I don't think there were too many. I think maybe 3-ish, 4 maybe, were we're going to leave him open to guard someone else, and he made maybe 2 or 4 of them. I also think the other point that Mazzulla made it when he had that back and forth with Noah about like offense versus defensive slumps. And I don't think this was part of the point he was making about that specific thing, but he actually made a point about this game plan, which was, he said, and this was before the Raptors game, I think, he said, our expected defense is number 1 in the last 10 games. Our layup percentage defense is number 1 in the last 10 games. Our expected points per shot defense is like number 3 in the last 10 games, but our 3-point percentage is 28th. So basically saying like, we're supposed to, like, we're playing good defense by the process. And I think it's harder to conceptualize defensive process rather than offensive process because it's so black and white on offense. It is, if you get a good shot, you can see if it opens, and that's the process. If it's open, and that's the process, and the result is just whether or not it goes in. Defensively, it's a little different because there's a lot more factors that go into the defensive process versus defensive results. Like the result is, do they score or not? But it's also not that, because if they get an open shot, then it's not really a good defensive process unless it's part of the game plan to let that person shoot. So it's just a lot more that goes into it. And I also think it's important when you are doing this to look at the other factors that are involved, like the Lou Dort shots against the Thunder. Everyone came together and agreed defense is not why the Celtics lost that game. They employed the same defensive game plan they have employed the whole season, which is we're going to help off of Lou Dort to guard SGA and Jalen Williams and everybody else. And he just made shots at the end. And maybe that contributed to why the score was as large of a lead as it was. But the Celtics shot 12% from 3 in the second half. That is why they lost the game, not because of the defense. Even the Caleb Martin thing, like Caleb Martin killed them in the second half. It was. And that's because they had to adjust to Tyrese Maxey. My question is, if they had focused more on Tyrese Maxey in the first place, because they guarded him like shit, they did the whole game, would that have changed the way the rest of the game went if they had doubled down on Maxey in the first place? And then you look at the Timberwolves game where it is, we guarded Anthony Edwards, made him a playmaker, and it was close, but it worked. It worked, right? Those guys got hot. And if they play the Timberwolves in a 7-game series, would Julius Randle shoot above 50% from 3? Hey, maybe I'm crazy. I say no. I say he's not going to do that. And then you look at the Nuggets game, and it is, did they leave this guy open? Sure, but did it work? Yes. I think there's a lot more that goes into just the defensive game plan, when in reality, I think it's a relatively good one. That said, at the same time, I do think the Celtics haven't been as good as at individual defense as they need to be this season. I don't know how much of that is the optics of them leaving guys open and not being as tight. I don't know how much of that is screen navigation, which I don't think was the best in the Nuggets game, and they can be better at that one-on-one. I do just think it is hard to optically understand some of the defensive stuff they're doing when in reality, like, it does make sense mathematically.
So the Celtics, what they really need to work on is just, I think you said it good or best, is the individual defense. Like, that's a real thing. It doesn't feel like they've been as reliable stopping the ball. And once the ball is not stopped, that's when everything else is a factor. That's when you have to decide whether or not you want to help off, who you want to help off. And when you may pick the statistical favorite to help off of, you still are gambling that person's ability to shoot the ball. Like, it's like you can still knock down threes if you're in the NBA. Like, even Ben Simmons can make threes. He's just not going to shoot them. Ben Simmons is a bad example, but you can see the clips of him making threes in an open gym. These guys are not plucked off the street and throwing up prayers. It's just strategy. And if you're going to beg them to shoot the ball, there is a chance that they're going to make them. We saw Memphis do it to
Yeah.
the Celtics, where they were like, hey, Drew Holiday, shoot all the threes. Drew Holiday was a 40-ish% three-point shooter last year. He was 60% from the corners. This season, he hasn't quite been the same. And it worked for Memphis that day. But it could have blew up in Memphis's face, and they could have got Drew Holiday hot, and so on. It's a hit or miss strategy. I understand why they do it. I don't know if I love it, but I think over the course of a playoff series, it's tough to argue with chance. Again, in a playoff series, I mean, we saw it in the conference finals in 2023. They did get hoed by chance.
Yeah.
But it's pretty rare for that to happen.
I also do think, even like with that as the example, I don't think they would have gotten hoed by chance if their offense was what it should have been. Because, like, how many players in that series just shot like shit from three because they had an off series? Al Horford shot like 20%. Malcolm Brogdon shot like 25% from three.
Right.
And when your guys aren't shooting what they even like average what they should be, you're going to lose. And that's a big part of it. And even this year, like, some of the losses you look at, other parts of their games weren't good enough. And while leaving them open could have been, a part of that, and probably was a part of that. And if you're looking at other parts of your game that aren't going, maybe you do adjust that defensive strategy. I think Missoula's point is this is a good defensive strategy if we do our jobs correctly. And I think a lot of the problems aren't with the strategy itself, but with the way they are attacking it and with the way the results are coming out, like a bad shooting night against the Thunder, or bad point of attack defense at times in the Nuggets game, or not containing Maxey or Halliburton well enough in those two games where they had like a parade to the paint when they wanted to. And I think those are the real issues rather than the strategy itself, because if the Celtics take care of business in those areas and Celtics shoot even 28% from three against the Thunder, we're having different conversations here. But the optics and how obvious it is of what they're doing on defense makes it so that conversation jumps to the forefront almost, when in reality, it's just, I think they're not doing their jobs well enough in the other areas around it.
Yeah, and Joe's right about that. Like, in the conversation he has with Noah at the podium, he's like, listen, we're 28th in 3-point makes. Like, that's a problem for us. And it's true. What's great about, and I guess we can kind of use this as a segue into like the broader road trip topics. What's great about the defense on this road trip is the Celtics made that their calling card. Even in the game they lost, you said it. Defense was not the problem. Defense was the biggest question mark, I think, after December. Even considering the 3-point shooting. The polarity in the defensive games that we saw the Celtics play, where one night they're holding a team to 90-something points, the next night it's like 130 they give up to the Pacers. Or it wasn't 130, it was 120-something. Regardless, the volatility where it's just like you don't really know what you're going to get was tough. And a lot of people were frustrated with that. Joe's going to the podium every night. He's being asked about defense. He's getting frustrated with it because it wasn't the only problem. But I think this road trip proved to a lot of people that if you play defense, you can get away with having cold offensive days. Maybe not perfectly. They certainly felt the repercussions of that in OKC. But for the trip as a whole, the Celtics averaged 109 points per game. That's bottom third of the NBA. In defense, they were first in field goals allowed. They allowed the fewest field goals. They allowed the fifth lowest field goal percentage. They did a great job of bringing that end of the floor. They also held every team except for Minnesota to 10 points or more fewer than their season average. All of that is important. In defense, I don't know how you feel about it, Jack, but it feels like the more controllable side of the floor. Do you feel that way? Do you disagree?
I disagree, I think, because you can control how hard you play defense, but you can't control whether or not the other team makes a shot. Like, in a weird way, you can control if you make the shot, even though it's like kind of you can't. Like I think they're equal or more equal than people think about it. Like, you can definitely control your effort on defense, right? Obviously. Before we jump to the next thing, I do need to tell you guys about Prize Picks.
Tell them about
Prize Picks. The best place to get real money sports action, over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. That's billions with a B. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000x your cash. Run a game all season long with Prize Picks. My roommate just got Prize Picks recently, as did my friend Danny, and they have been hooked. So shout out to CLNS for the code CLNS, which you guys should use at checkout because you can get hooked to on Prize Picks. They've been using it all the time. They come up to me and they're like, "What do you think of this? I need more than 6.5."
There's nothing worse than being asked what you think of someone's picks, because there's no winning. They either win and come back to you, or they lose and blame you.
Yeah, but it's okay when it's Prize Picks. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000x your money on Prize Picks, like I said. Also, Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Sam and I use Prize Picks all the time on the pregame. It's been a minute because we weren't the best at Prize Picks, and so we need to reload our account. We lost a few too many times, but we like picking the more on Celtics player points. We like picking the less on opposing players' points and the more on opposing players' turnovers, because, well, that just makes it more fun to root for it. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. But you can also control your execution, the decisions you make on offense in that sense.
Correct.
But what you can't control is whether or not your shot goes in or whether or not their shot goes in. Like, at the end of the day, you can have the best contest in the world, but Russell Westbrook can drain a heave 3-pointer over your face. Or as you saw last night in the Jazz-Hawks game, Trae Young can drain a half-court shot to win the game. Like, there's only so much you can control in that sense. But I think it's pretty even. But I get your point. Like, you can control how hard you play and your execution on defense and on both sides of the ball. But I think it's ironic because I 100% agree with you. The defense on this trip was great. It was objectively good. But you look at their last 4 games and their defensive rating is worse than their defensive rating for the season. So it's like, there's only so much stats can do for you is the point I'm making. I'm not disagreeing with you. Like, the last 4 games, they're 3-1, but have a 112 defensive rating. The defensive rating of the season is 109. So it's just, it's like weird looking at certain things like that because 100% they played good defense. But the non-controllable part is Timberwolves made a bunch of shots. And so that tanked the defensive rating a little bit. Like, that only shows you so much. And Joe Mazzulla pointed that out in the quote that I mentioned, where he was like, we're 10th and projected. And I think that is where stuff like potential assists or projected defense or stuff like that does come into play, because you can't control sometimes if they make a bunch of shots that they shouldn't be making or that you're contesting, but it's not working and stuff like that. But I think the defense was definitely a lot better on this road trip. And even the Thunder game, like you said, I know, and you said like a cold offensive night hurt them, but that's not even a cold offensive night. That was fucking Antarctica. Like that is not. That is different.
Step outside in January cold.
Yeah, there is levels to cold, and that was Santa Claus coming to town, North Pole, like obscene.
That was the ice
levels
age.
Of cold. Yeah,
killed all the mammoths with that.
Yeah, that's Sid the Sloth right there. But I think that
the acorn around.
What's the squirrel's name? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Let me see. Squirrel. Let's see. Squirrel from Ice Age name. Scrat.
Scrat. I had my man chasing the acorn around like it was his life depending on it.
Yeah, but no, their defense was definitely better on this road trip, and that's a big step forward, I think. Their game plan and how they approach things is always going to look a little weird because of the math and the way Mazzulla approaches it. But I do think in the long run, it works out. And like I said, it is built for the playoffs. And so it's tough to conceptualize how much it is working when you're just playing these teams one time rather than in a 7-game series. But defense was definitely a good takeaway from the road trip.
Yeah. And I think, that should calm everybody down. because whether it was the right take or not, it was the buzz. Like that's everyone was like, oh, they can't defend. Like feels like they had lapses at crucial points in these games, even if the numbers look like they had a good defensive game. Like the Philly game, they obviously fell apart when they got back close. The Pacers game, they failed to get stops and it blew open, like that kind of thing. Also, really important thing is, I guess, health. We can start there and then kind of pinpoint in on KP. But health is clearly a looming thing for the Celtics. The Celtics are a team now that's played deep into the playoffs for this would be year 4 in a row where they made the conference. If they make the conference finals this year, it would be the 4th time in 4 years that they play that deep. You had 3 guys play for Team USA in the Olympics after winning an NBA Finals. There hasn't been a lot of just downtime with no consistent basketball, consistent high level games that these guys have to play in. Wear and tear is a real thing. I think you're seeing that. You're seeing it with Drew Holiday, who's getting older. He had to miss some time for his shoulder. He had to miss time for his knee. Jalen is missing time with his shoulder, and he's icing his shoulder every game. And the reason why the Celtics have struggled, that 3-point percentage is lower. And the reason why it's lower is because guys like Drew and Jalen and even Kristaps haven't been as consistent. And that's what makes it more difficult for them to win games. So the injuries are a factor to all of this too. Guys can't really get comfortable playing. Like Kristaps came out and said it last night. You put it on the sheet. He's working his way back up to his top form. He's not quite there yet. We saw a flash of it in Denver. I think we saw a flash of it in OKC too. I thought he had a good game despite the team going ice age cold. Still thought he hustled well, thought he was a pest for them. Like we saw things beyond just buckets from Kristaps, and that's very encouraging. The rest of the guys, Drew had a good game in Denver. Like maybe that is a little bit of him feeling more comfortable after having the shoulder problem. Jalen has shown flashes, but he literally has not been able to put 2 halves together in the same game, it seems like. So that's just something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, good that this all just came out healthy, except for Kristaps' nuts. Sorry, Kristaps stuff.
Scrats after him.
Yeah, but good that they came out healthy. It does feel like they are significantly more banged up this year, whether it's Drew's issue, and even he said after the game, like he was joking, but he said, I'm a little older than Kristaps. It takes me a little longer to get back to 100%. So he's probably still dealing with a little bit of the remnants of that. Jaylen Brown's shoulder. Even Derek White got sick for the hometown Colorado game, which was tough for him.
Bummed.
I know. But yeah, you can definitely see that they are dealing with the outcome of playing deep in the playoffs X amount of years in a row. Like they're hurt, man. Like not hurt, but aching. Like you can tell that they are tired a little bit, or maybe even it's a part of it. Like we know we can win in the playoffs. Holy shit, 82 games is a lot. We're just gonna do what we need to do to get there and then go from there, which you might not want to hear, but is just a natural human reaction to how stuff works. Like that it happens, dude. It is what it is. Speaking of Kristaps, though, Kristaps was great, like you said. Like he was super good on this road trip. He said he felt 85% after this game, and if that is 85% of Kristaps, shit, I can't wait for 100 because he looked damn good in that Nuggets game. And realistically, the league hasn't seen a healthy Celtics team with a healthy Kristaps since what, over a year ago at this point, because he wasn't healthy in the playoffs, and he wasn't healthy for the entire.
He wasn't healthy for the opening of the playoffs.
He was healthy for the first 2 games, but then
he gets the soleus strain.
Yeah, but then he didn't have to play, or he didn't play until the finals, and even then he wasn't healthy, and then he got hurt again.
The game 1 of the finals, he looked pretty healthy. Generational performance.
Sure, yeah, but he didn't start, so it wasn't like the full
Correct.
what they are used to. And then he got hurt again in game 2, and then he was out, and then the surgery, and now this season he's definitely not been fully healthy. So it has been a while since we've seen that version. And on top of the fact that the NBA hasn't had to deal with it, the Celtics probably aren't used to it too. Like when you have guys in and out of the lineup, it's probably more impressive than we give them credit for, that they are able to maintain such a high level when the lineup is changing as much as it is. But KP was really good in this Nuggets game, and it's good to see him getting back to that point.
Completely agree. Like I think Kristaps is a key to this team, and especially with the Cavs emerging as quite the team in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks have gone out and strengthened the top of their roster. They've looked to compete. Milwaukee and Philadelphia still exist. They might not be as sharp as they once were, but they're still kind of there. Philly beat you on Christmas. You beat Milwaukee every single time. these are teams that are going to be coming for your head. Joe Mazzulla said it to Corrales back in like June or whenever he did the Locked On appearance. He wants the target between their eyes. It's between their eyes. In order to survive and to be able to fend off all the headhunters, you need Kristaps healthy. Tatum talked a little bit about it after the game, how having 3 guys that can be centerpieces to an offense makes the Celtics so much more dangerous. And the challenge that they've had to deal with getting Kristaps back, which I think we've definitely noticed at times, is picking the spots to make sure they get him involved, to take advantage of what he does great. Someone in the comments on the Denver pod, I think, said something very similar where it was like, it feels like they have him at times and they just kind of ignore him or like stray away from getting him the ball when he's hot. And Tatum kind of said they need to do a better job at that. But once they remember, and also he is physically able to be the best version of himself, the Celtics become so much more dangerous because that high post presence makes them a much more controlled offense in tight spots. We talked about it a lot last year. It felt like adding Kristaps to the team made them a more competitive clutch team last year. After in years past, we felt like they weren't as consistent as they needed to be, whether or not it was numerically, statistically true. Your eye test would tell you maybe don't trust him in a close game. That changed last year. And I think he was a big part of that. And I think they've had clutch issues this year. And once he's able to be the dominant force, the Nerf ball player that he is, I think it's going to really help him.
Yeah. I mean, a healthy Kristaps, just like you said, changes everything for Boston. But I think it was a good road trip. 3-1 is solid. Obviously not the 4-0 the Celtics may have wanted, but they played 4 high-level playoff teams in the Western Conference. And I remember all of last year, the whole thing was the Celtics can't beat the West. They're frauds. And I mean, they played the Mavs, so they didn't really have to play the best of the West. But yeah, I think they'll be okay. It'll be tough to win a championship again, though. The Thunder are real. Rockets are real. Nuggets are real with Jokic. I think when they're healthy, are real.
Thunder, by the way, did not have Caruso or Chet. For those of you,
yep,
forgetting that.
Very true, very true. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how things play out. But next thing, Blake Griffin is joining Amazon's NBA coverage for when they launch their coverage next season with the new CBA TV rights deal, stuff like that. Him, Dirk, and Taylor Rooks will lead the coverage. Going to be very fun, very interesting to see him covering the game in that capacity. Ian Eagle's going to be their lead play-by-play guy, which is sick.
Pretty good.
Fun crew. Very fun crew.
I think Blake Griffin's would be really awesome on TV. I think anytime he's in front of a microphone, he's really good. He's funny. He's got good charisma. He's someone who is got a good voice, like admittedly isn't annoying to listen to. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Dirk is an interesting one. I don't know that much about Dirk, but I don't really take him as a desk guy or a TV guy. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Blake's a great fit. It's so funny that Blake became such a fan favorite with Celtics fans in like a year. I think that says a lot about who he is.
Yeah, people love him, man. People love Blake Griffin. And I mean, it's not hard to see why, right? He is entertaining. He played his role well. He's funny. I think he's done like stand-up comedy before or some shit like that. Like he's just really good at explaining the game and doing, the right things and being funny, right? And I think that's what you need when you are building a cast to lead NBA coverage. So I'm very, very excited to see what it looks like. And I think the Celtics will be entertained to see him in that role too.
All the apps and memberships, buddy.
I already got that. Amazon. Everyone's got Amazon. If you don't have Amazon Prime at this point, yeah, it's just. I feel like everyone's got it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like everyone's got it. All right, let's go to the email here. A reminder as always, you guys can email us at hbtcpod@gmail.com. That's hbtcpod@gmail.com. We got a few to go over today, so let's jump in. First one from RJ says, Rat List, know your geography. This is about everyone who's been commenting about the Celtics 4-game jaunt from Minnesota to Houston to OKC to Denver. Well, it has taken them west of the Eastern time zone and even west of the Mississippi River. It has not been a West Coast trip. Not even if Lex Luthor's plans in the 1970 Superman movie had come to pass would Denver have become Pacific Beach property. Look at a map, people, and be well, RJ. Also, asterisks. For those of you too young to remember the Christopher Reeve classic, Lex was going to drop a nuke on the San Andreas Fault, causing much of California to fall into the ocean, giving him a monopoly on real estate along the new coastline. If you look at the map, Phoenix remains landlocked. On the plus side, the Lakers aren't just below 500; they're below sea level. There you go. I don't know if killing the entire Lakers organization is the solution to the problem.
I can't put my signature on that one.
Yeah, maybe perhaps a step too far, but I caught myself calling it the West Coast road trip a few times, but I did try to correct myself and call it the Western Conference road trip because it is a road trip. So you got to call it what it is.
And it is West.
It is West. It's just Western Conference, not West Coast.
Coast
is very fair. Very, very fair. So I was trying to think of another way to say fair because I'd said fair, but good criticism, RJ. You got me. Before we keep going here, I need to take a second to tell you guys about Gametime, which is the best place to buy your tickets. And we're once again going to be going to a separate tab to check out what we've got cooking here. Post Malone's still there. It's going to be there until May because those tickets are doing really well. What do you want to look at, Sam? What sport or concert or comedy? What do you think today? What should we check out?
It's a good question. I don't even know what's going on. We can't look at Post Malone again. We've already.
Let's look at this.
Who doesn't want to go see Disney on Ice?
Disney on Ice. What is Dude Perfect selling? Do you know? Are you familiar with Dude Perfect?
I am familiar with Dude Perfect.
What is this? They're doing a Dude Perfect Garden? Show. You know, it's in the DCU Center. Very interesting, but you could buy tickets to Dude Perfect if that's what you want to see. But let's check out Disney on Ice instead because that is funnier. Disney on Ice is taking place in the SNHU Arena. All-in ticket pricing is one of the best features Gametime has for sure. You can see, the price with the fees included, so you know you're getting the best deal. And I mean, you click all the way down to the final page, and on a bunch of other sites, you get surprised with new fees that you didn't know about, but not with Gametime because it includes it all in one. Most places you go as well, we're going to go right back to the Post Malone for the best example I can give you. You get the view from the seat as well, so you can see exactly what you're seeing for that type of event at the arena or the venue you're going to, which is another great feature from Gametime. Some other things include lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime ticket coverage. Tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So shout out to Gametime for that. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's jump back into the email here. We got one from Philip that we need to go over. So let me pull that back up for you guys. Philip says, podcast tiers. Fellas, we all know who the best Celtics pod is, but could I ask you to put some national NBA podcast / news into tiers? Excuse me. I kept the list of 10. I don't have every podcast, of course. I purposely put some stinkers and gems on the list, or gems on the list. Feel free to ignore any of these you don't watch or add any you do. Don't put too much effort into your list. I didn't in mine. Here's the list. Bill Simmons pod, Inside the NBA, Hoop Collective, Young Man in the Three, Mismatch, Locked on NBA, NBA Front Office, All NBA, The Ringer, NBA Today. I don't listen to a ton of NBA podcasting. I listen to NBA Front Office a lot, and that's pretty much the only one. I don't know how much NBA podcasting you listen to.
I listen to Simmons usually so what I really don't like about Simmons is during football season, he does a lot of football, which I understand, like, you have to go where the ratings are, but I think Simmons is best as a basketball guy.
Sure.
And that frustrates me because I want to hear him talk about basketball, not fucking NFL overs. I don't really watch the TNT shows. I know the Hoop Collective is good content. I know the guys on there, Quality Minds, so you're going to get good discussion there. Young Man and 3 I've not listened to. Since JJ left, I haven't listened. When JJ was on the
I haven't
show, I
either.
enjoyed it a lot. I thought he did good interviews. I'm sure they still do good interviews. I'm sure Tommy had a lot to do with the prep that was done for those interviews. Haven't listened to the Mismatch. I know Locked on NBA is hit or miss depending on who the person is. I think John does a good job for the Celtics. So when you don't listen to us, listen to him. You can also Jack likes the front office. I don't know what All NBA is. The Ringer
That's
has
Tim
several.
Legler, I believe.
And NBA Today is gar. Any of the TV studio shows are usually not very good.
I agree. Yeah. I've never listened to Bill Simmons, weirdly enough, but I'm sure it's good. Inside the NBA, that's one of the TV ones too, right? I think. Right.
That's the Kenny Shack. Or
Oh yeah. No, garbage. Hoop Collective's good. I've listened to that before. It's a little. I don't want to say repetitive, but maybe dry. I would say of all of them, it's still good,
Sure.
and I like the guys, but it might be a little dry. Young Man and 3, I'm sure is good. I haven't listened, like Sam said, since that. I don't love the Mismatch. It's fine. They're nice enough guys, but I think it's also a little bit dry. Locked on NBA, I don't really listen to. NBA Front Office Show, I like a lot. All NBA, I haven't listened to, but I like Tim Legler a lot, so I'm sure it's pretty good. I haven't listened to The Ringer a lot, and I don't listen to NBA Today. I'm trying to think. Dunker Spot's really good if you want to listen to like actually break down like in-depth breakdowns of the game. Dunker Spot's really good. Trying to think if there's anything else I listen to. I don't think so. Let's look at Phillips tiers. He says S tier, Hoop Collective, Bill Simmons, All NBA. A tier, NBA Front Office, Mismatch, Locked on NBA. B tier, The Ringer, Young Man and 3. C tier, Inside the NBA. D tier, NBA Today. Yeah, that's pretty on par with what we said, I think.
Yeah,
that's pretty fair.
I do think Simmons is a really fun listen. It's impressive that, I mean, he usually does have guests on, but like you can also just listen to Simmons talk by himself, and it's usually not bad, which is not easy to do.
No. Thanks, Philip. Last one from RJ, implementing a lesson of Missoula ball. Evening, folks. Celtics won a pretty game in Denver. 50% shooting overall, won the rebounding, free throw, and turnover battles, and was close to a push on three-point attempts and makes. Yep, no Jokic, and the C's won. C's didn't win it by shooting a lot of threes, and Jaylen Brown was scoreless in the first half on only 4 shot attempts. Nimi took 5 to JB's 4 before this break. Peyton Pritchard was not the best Peyton on the floor, but the Celtics dialed it in on defense, rebounding, free throws, and 2-pointers, mostly through Kristaps as the focal point. Joe says it all the time. They don't hunt threes. They look for the best shot. And the C's won, which makes it all look pretty. 27-10 is the third best record in the league. I'm liking it. Be well, RJ. Yeah, got the job done. Fine win. 3-1 road trip. Good. Good. All right. NBA standings. Let's take a look at how things are shaking out around the league. Shocker. Cavs still in first place. They've now won 10 in a row. They're not losing. They're pretty damn good. They
play OKC tonight, so somebody's losing.
One streak has to go. 1-0 or 1-0 has to go. Celtics second place. Knicks third place. Celtics building that gap between the Knicks a little bit now. Knicks have lost 3 in a row, so that'll help with that. They lost to the Magic the other night without Paolo, Franz, or Suggs.
Paolo's back.
Magic. Yep. The gap between the Knicks and the Magic is now officially smaller than the gap between the Celtics and the Knicks. Magic are still hanging around. Bucks are in 5th. Heat in 6th. Then you got Hawks, Pacers, Pistons, Bulls. Then Philly, Nets, Hornets, Raptors, Wizards. Kind of surprised that the Sixers haven't been able to climb into that play-in. But when the Pacers are 7-3 in their last 10, the Pistons are 8-2 in their last 10, and the Bulls are 6-4 in their last 10. It's a little difficult when those teams keep winning. So,
I think the Sixers have also sporadically been without Embiid again. Like, I think he's been in and out of the lineup, which has not helped them. Once they got healthy, you saw them find their footing a little bit. I mean, they beat Boston with all their guys. Paul George has continued to be poor, not very good for them. Putrid P. The rest of the teams at the bottom are going to stay at the bottom. Brooklyn is actively trying to get worse. They're trading guys. The Hornets just can't get healthy, even though I think they won yesterday, and LaMelo had a press conference moment where he could not believe that the reporter had a nice voice and was smiling at him. Toronto and Washington, not good. The butt-ass section of the Eastern Conference, shout out to Justin Turpin. Pistons, though.
Yeah.
Pistons Nets today. I'm very excited. Our Pistons could be above 500.
Yeah. They've been good this year. 4 in a row. Playing team. And we'll probably see them come postseason. Knock on wood for you. But we'll see what happens. Western Conference, Thunder 30-5 now. Just one game worse than the Cavs. Sitting atop the West with the 15-game win streak, but again, play the Cavs on a 10-game win streak, so something has to go. Rockets in second place still have won 2 in a row since losing to the Celtics, and you got the Grizzlies, Nuggets, Mavs, Lakers rounding out that top 6. Clippers, Timberwolves, Spurs, Warriors in the play-in. Kings biting at the heels of the Spurs and the Warriors, though. Kings have won 5 in a row and are only half a game behind the Warriors and Spurs. And then the Suns are in a rough spot. 2-8 in their last 10, 16-19, not very good. And then, as usual, Blazers, Jazz, Pelicans. However, to give them a little bit of credit, the Blazers are separating themselves from the Jazz, Pelicans butt-ass section. They have 12 wins, and that is the 12 and 23 Blazers are only the 6th worst team in the NBA. So keep that for context.
There's a lot of bad teams. Some notes: Dallas, no Luka, no Kyrie for this foreseeable future.
But they won.
They beat the Lakers yesterday, which was a real shame. Made me really sad to see because LeBron had the best dunk ever. So surely they won. But nope, they lost to a starless Mavs team. Also, Houston just continues to be an exciting team. Jack was very excited to show me that Reed Shepherd scored a lot of points in the G League yesterday.
Damn right.
I loved that. I think the West is really interesting. I'm happy to see Memphis and Houston in the mix. It's kind of fun to see newer teams, or at least like breaking in as like a team like Phoenix skids. Like I was out on Phoenix for a lot of this era. Like once they traded for Beal, I thought they were cooked. And I don't think you disagreed. And I guess we can segue into Beal now because he's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, let's go. We'll call it Jimmy Butler updates, but it's really Jimmy Butler and Bradley Beal updates because Jimmy is all the smoke is Jimmy wants to go to Phoenix. Like that is it. That is everything going on. Jimmy's pointing it that way by telling the Bucks and the Grizzlies, don't trade for me. He's saying like he's telling basically teams where he wants to go, where he doesn't want to go. And he has that power right now because he's free agent this summer and the Heat kind of have to trade him if they want to get anything back. And if he's going to go somewhere, that team's going to want an assurance that he's going to sign an extension. So that he has power. That's how it works. That is what it is right now. If the Heat want to get anything back, and to do a Phoenix deal, they would have to send out Bradley Beal because they're a second apron team and can't aggregate salaries and have to send out more than they are taking back. And so it literally has to be Bradley Beal in a trade unless they want to trade Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, which they're not going to do. So it's got to be Bradley Beal. But Bradley Beal has a no trade clause. And so if they want to trade Bradley Beal, he has to approve where he's going. I saw something that said he'd be okay with Lakers, Heat, or Nuggets. I think Clippers too, maybe, because the LA teams. But then Bradley Beal came out and said him and his agent haven't even talked about it. He's just focused on helping the Suns right now. And also there's another thing that said Bradley Beal is absolutely not considering waiving his no trade clause to facilitate a Butler deal. And then even Beal said after a recent game, if so, I need to be addressed because I hold the cards. So I tell him address and somebody says something differently, then I'll be a Sun, which kind of sick, kind of baller because he does so hold the cards.
I hold the cards. Someone come talk to me.
He does.
This Bradley Beal thing is a mess. It was always going to be a mess. The trade was always bad. I think Phoenix gave up a bunch of draft picks for this too, if I'm not mistaken. Or a couple.
Relatively. I think it was a lot of seconds. I don't think they had to give up a first in the deal, but I can double check.
I hope they didn't because it was always going to be bad. They gave up Chris Paul's salary, which expired after last season. So they took on a longer salary window to get rid of Chris Paul. And then they took back a guy that has a no trade clause. So he can just dick them around. And listen, there aren't a lot of places where Jimmy can get traded where it's going to be a good return for Miami. So that's also an eye-opening, intriguing, must-watch, whatever you want to call it, layer to this whole saga, is Miami's probably going to get the shaft. They're either going to have to get desperate and trade him for less than he's worth, or they're going to hold him and lose him for absolutely nothing. He's clearly pissed off there. He's upset that they didn't extend him. He doesn't want to extend anywhere else. I will say this. I think him not wanting to go to the Grizzlies is kind of stupid on his part. I think that would be a good situation for him.
Yeah.
If Big Cat, as much as he's like a troll, had a great take on this where he was like, yeah, Jimmy Butler getting paid like hundreds of millions of dollars to play basketball in Miami. He's going to go find happiness somewhere. like living in like paradise, playing basketball, getting paid a bunch of money to do it. I know he had some things happen to him, but like the point is, where is Jimmy going to go that's like a better environment than Miami?
Um,
Is it more about the culture within the organization? Because if
yeah,
that's the case, sure.
he's probably just not happy with the way they've treated his extension and I don't know, general things like just because you're in a good location or whatever, like money isn't everything when it comes to happiness. Neither is location. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So if the way they've treated him isn't to what he wants it to be, and he thinks he'll be happier somewhere else, like that's fine. Like I think that makes sense. But looking at this Bradley Beal trade, so I was wrong. Kind of. It's weird. The Wizards can swap picks with the Suns in 2024, 26, and 2030. So it's technically not a first because the Suns will still have their first, but they the Wizards can swap with them. And then in 2028, they can also swap, but it'll be with whatever pick the Suns control, which is going to be either the Suns, Nets, or Sixers, which is weird. So technically they have 4 first-round pick swaps for Bradley Beal, which is
Yikes.
not good. Not great.
Very bad.
It's not as bad as like if they had given up straight first, like not nearly as bad, but still not ideal because now it restricts what they can also do in trades moving forward, which is not good. Brian Windhorst also talked about the Jimmy Butler thing, said we're at a genuine stalemate. I don't know how it's going to play out. The Heat are preparing internally for this to last past the suspension, not because they've got some sort of sinister motive, but because they know what offers they've gotten and they stink. So that's where we're at now. So on top of the Bradley Beal thing, which if I'm Bradley Beal, I'm doing the same shit. Like, you're not going to dump me somewhere. I have a no trade clause. Like, I get to decide what I want to do. Of course, obviously.
Correct. He's not wrong for that.
It's a mess. It's kind of just a mess right now.
So what's also rumored, well, not rumored, it is happening in Phoenix, is they've moved him and Nurkic to the bench. Part of the motivation behind that is to piss him off enough to where he'll be more willing to waive
That's
that
a theory,
to get out of there. If that's the case, good luck. I can see how it may work. I don't know if you're going to motivate him that much more than the team being 2-8 in their last 10 games, but good luck. Like, I think Bradley Beal's getting up there in age. I don't think he wants to be on shit teams. With that being said, I also think the Suns are a shit team because they traded for Brad Beal and they gave up too much to get him. And now they're salary restricted and they're in the second apron and they're very limited in what they're allowed to do. So watching them try and untie this knot that they've put themselves in is going to be incredible content. I will say this, Ishbia buying this team. Actually, we'll go further back. I don't know. I don't remember what happened when the former Suns owner had to sell the team. I know he got smoked with some scandal or whatever he was doing.
Racist bullshit. Bad stuff.
Okay. Very bad. Increasingly bad for the organization because Ishbia comes in and wants to make these big swing moves and be the hero that saved them and went in and spent the money. And he's now painted them into a corner where they have all their money tied into Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. And like you said, Jack, because of the new CBA rules, they can't trade for anybody unless they trade one of those guys, which they can't do for Bradley Beal because he has a no trade clause. Trading for Bradley Beal was, I think, I don't remember what I said at the time. Hindsight's 2020. I think you should have been more willing to trade for Zach LaVine than Bradley Beal because at least you can trade him willingly. I always thought the Brad Beal thing was a risk. I never completely understood it. And now Phoenix is really paying the consequences.
Yeah, it's just like 3 isolation scores. Doesn't really fit from a basketball perspective. I will say, though, Bradley Beal first came off the bench, helped them beat the Sixers and had 25 on 10 of 15.
Well, that's a shame.
He kind of had said, fuck you. But then the very next day, they lost to the Hornets, which isn't quite as good.
By the way, the Hornets only win in their last 10 games.
Yeah. Yeah. Not exactly
they got LaMelo
where you want to be. Yeah. Yeah. It's their first win in a long time because I think they had lost 10 in a row before that. So, Suns are not in a good place, man. They're not having very much fun right now.
It feels like it's only going to be so long before that all blows up. Like Durant is not going to watch his career wither away as Phoenix continues to lose games.
You think you request another trade?
I think this is the most reasonable place for him to have requested a trade.
What do you mean?
Like, When
him and
situation.
Kyrie
I
understand.
asked out of
Yeah.
Brooklyn, I think Kyrie was like the real driving force behind that. And once Kyrie was gone, like Durant didn't want to play by himself there. But like when that happened, they were what, fourth in the East? Like they were playing okay ball. They looked like they had figured it
With
out
Kyrie,
when they were both on the court. So Kyrie derailed that, and then Durant had to leave. I don't know what happens to Booker. I think the clock's ticking with him low key too.
If I'm Booker, I consider asking for a trade. But he has, to his credit, been very much, I want to figure it out in Phoenix up to this point. So maybe he'll keep doing that. I don't know. It's tough though. Bradley Beal's getting all the attention. Yusuf Nurkic sucks. Like that is another big problem they have going on. He is not good. He is a defensive liability. They had to start Mason Plumlee, who attempted one shot in his first start with the team, and they ended up playing both of them for combined less minutes or almost fewer minutes. And they played Oso Iguodaro, their second round rookie, who has been really good this year. But yeah, if you're depending on two rookies to give you all those minutes, probably means you're not in a good spot. Luckily, Ryan Dunn and Iguodaro have been pretty good, but
that is the lone like silver lining is those guys
are
not getting paid a lot of money, and it does enable you to have actual rotation pieces that are not in the big three there.
I do wonder where the breaking point is for the Suns, though, because Matt Ishbia, I think, is probably going to be pretty
close.
He's going to be stubborn, though. He spent all this money to put together. He's going to be like, no, we're going to figure it out. I don't care if we have to fire coaches first or trade other guys. Like, I don't think he's going to trade Booker and Durant, is my point, unless they force it. And so I'm wondering when they force it, because maybe Durant soon. I don't think Booker will force it too soon. Maybe like this summer or next season, but I don't know.
There's also something to the fact that they gave up all their picks for Bradley Beal.
Yeah, they
for the
can't do
rights
much
to swap with those picks.
I know. The Booker sweepstakes would be very interesting, more so than anything else, I think, because he's still like 27, 28, 29. So he's got time to compete. I don't know where he'd go or what he'd do. You know who I'd love Devin Booker for?
Pistons.
Not for the Celtics, but him on the Magic would be fucking sweet.
Magic are one of those teams that they're like good and they have enough guys that are on low costing contracts where you can kind of fathom adding more talent. And yeah, like I could see that. Unironically, like the Pistons. I'm pretty sure he's from up there too.
Pistons would be all right. I like the Magic better because they built a better defensive infrastructure. He's from Grand Rapids, so that would make a little sense. But
yeah.
Okay. Next thing. And last to be a thing before the list is Zion is back. He's returned from his injury. He looked really, really, really good in his first game back, to his credit. They still ended up losing to the Timberwolves, but they were noticeably more competitive with him on the court. Who would have thought? They were still missing Brandon Ingram and Trey Murphy, so they're still missing 2 of their 5 regular starters or regular top guys, but yeah, Zion's back.
Celtics play the Pelicans on Sunday. Jack, I won't be there for that, by the way.
Oh,
We'll talk.
Okay, that's fine. No worries. But yeah, Zion's back, and he looked good.
Zion's back.
Cool dunk.
I mean, I guess if you're the Pelicans, you like do want him to play, but at the same time, like it doesn't do anything for you. Like you're already cemented amongst the butt ass, so you might as well be the most butt ass to get Cooper Flag.
Yeah, maybe shut him down. Like you don't want to win too much.
Maybe they legitimately trade him.
I don't think they trade him. I think they shut him down, if anything, before they trade him. Zion's so weird, man. Like it's almost like the Kawhi thing, because he is so good when he's on the court, but he just can't stay healthy.
And the Pelicans have also been good when he plays.
Exactly.
In the past.
That's my point, man. So it's really tough with him. Also, something else we forgot to talk about that we skipped over because we were talking about Jimmy. Khris Middleton's getting benched. He's coming back from an injury today. Middleton's not going to be in the starting lineup for the Bucks, so they're in the similar Suns desperation mode of we're going to try something else because they haven't been as good as they wanted to be. They had a stretch where they were kind of figuring it out, and then they kind of were not really doing it. But yeah,
well, they won the cup.
Middleton, they did win the cup, and for the second year in a row, the winner of the cup has been shit after winning the cup.
Cup curse.
So we'll see what happens.
I don't know what to make of the Milwaukee situation in terms of Middleton. Like, I wonder what his future looks like there. Is he is he untradeable? Like, are teams around the league going to give you a fair price for Middleton at this point? I don't think
It depends on what you think a fair price for Middleton is. I don't think you'd get. I think you get a first for him. Maybe.
You think you get a first for him?
Maybe not a first. I'll put it this way. Let me rephrase. I don't think he is negative value yet. I don't think you'd have to attach stuff to Khris Middleton to get him. Maybe not a first, but I think you get like a second and matching salary, right? Like I don't think if the Bucks decide tomorrow we're going to trade Khris Middleton, we don't want him. I don't necessarily think that they would have to give up picks on top of him. I don't think he is good for his contract as much anymore, but I think he is good enough to where a team that could fathom trading for him could be look at him and be like, all right, we'll figure this out. Because realistically, he's under contract this year, next year, so it's not like you have too much of a long-term issue.
I mean, that's true too. Like, I just wonder.
And he doesn't make like 40 mil.
No, so he makes what, 30-ish?
31.6 this year, then 34 next year. So it is not like this. It's not the end of the world contract.
No, it's just more of like, I don't know who's going to be like, this is worth giving things up for. Like, I think the teams, it's not that he doesn't have value. I just think they're going to be scared. They're going to need like,
it'd be hard. It'd be hard for sure because you'd have to find the right situation for a team to want to take a chance on Khris Middleton. Like, you might not like it, but the Pistons are in a place to where they could want to take a chance on a Khris Middleton.
Yeah,
right.
I thought about
like
that.
Getting another scorer in that. Like, you could trade Tobias Harris and Isaiah Stewart, and you can get off of Isaiah Stewart's long-term money to bring on a Khris Middleton to maybe give you a year or so of decent basketball. If you are looking around the leagues, like if you're the Grizzlies and you can pull together, maybe you want to say, hey, let's get him in for a year, see if it works. In worst case, we clear up that salary next year. Right? Like if you are the Timberwolves, maybe you say, hey, we'll try to dump this contract. But that's not realistic. They can't do that.
Give him Randall.
Randall was making enough money. And they're a second apron team, so they couldn't do it. I don't know though. It definitely be. Oh no, Randall does make enough money. Yeah, you could do that.
That's a winning player if I've ever seen it.
Giannis and Julius Randle on the same team would be quite the experience. All right. I think we can go to the round list. Before I did see this on Twitter just now. Did you see the Celtics promise to draft Tyler Hero?
I feel like I've heard this before.
Hero said it. He said the Celtics guaranteed they'd draft him, but the Heat swooped in and took him before they could.
That I think we knew. I think we knew that they were going to pick him. It's just Miami.
I didn't know that.
First.
Yeah. Anyways, Rat List, Sam, what do you got?
Rat List is being bothered on your fucking day off. I was at my job all day yesterday. Like, I was getting work done, but like nobody really had any things for me to do. Like, didn't get emails, nothing. Today, nothing but fucking emails and messages. And respect the purple circle. You see the purple circle, don't bother me.
What does purple circle mean?
So when you're on Teams, it's like it says like you're out of office pretty much.
I see. That makes sense.
Very, very aggravating to just be like getting my day started, and all of a sudden everyone's got questions.
I feel like I had a rouse, but I can't remember what it was. The wind. I mean, you said it. It is
cold. Dude. I'm telling you,
the wind sucks, man.
As an outdoorsman, now you understand. Somebody who leaves the house.
I had to go get milk today. I made coffee and realized I didn't have any milk, so I just like walked down to the corner store, which is fine. But like the wind was like blowing my hood off. It was like
crusty crab pizza.
Man. It was awful. This wind sucks. I'm not a fan.
Anti-Rat List is the Celtics social media team, and also Bill Simmons. I love the Bill Simmons picture of him on WWE with the phone in the Celtics, and I love that the Celtics have leaned into it. I don't know if they do it, but if they do make that the victory, like tweet every game, that would be fire. It would be fire if it's just Bill Simmons, like with the Celtics giving you a thumbs up.
That is very funny.
Bill had a generational performance on WWE because it was like him next to like all these wrestlers and stuff. And like, he's just with the elite. He kept getting on camera. Like, I don't know. It's always funny. And people love to clown the people that they listen to podcasts of. So like all the people on Reddit are like, oh yeah, there's Bill, like blah, 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 whatever. I don't have that. I thought I had something. I had nothing. I bombed.
Very random, but I just pulled it up. I apparently looked up like Locked On NBA podcast to like see something. They have a 24/7 stream up on their
Just
YouTube right now.
podcasts.
Yeah, I think they just run in podcasts in a loop of like the podcasts of that day covering games. Very cool, very random, but just something that I saw and was like, what the fuck? That's weird. But cool.
That is like a good way to catch up, I guess, just listening to teams' podcast to hear around the league.
Throw it on, yeah. What else do I have? The wind was bad. I don't really have much else, man. I haven't done much. I've just been writing and doing nothing else lately. 10 p.m. start was bad. I was up so late last night writing and
Time did you go to bed?
3:30, maybe later. Because like I can't even start my work until 1. Like I just
Exactly.
So it's bad. I had to edit the show, edit the TikTok, write some stuff, do the thumbnails. Is ass.
See, like I have like less responsibility than you do in terms of writing. So I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, what if I just did like a breakdown of the road trip and included this game for my game story? And I think that's the good solution because I was able to do that today instead of having to stay up.
Yeah. No, I had to get something up for the morning, and I put something out last night too, just because I could. It was long. I was tired. It was bad, and I woke up at 10:30 today, so it wasn't too bad. But I like
Not
set
bad
my
at all.
heart. No, it's early enough where I was okay. But you know what I've been addicted to lately? I've showed you, but I'll show you. 1 sec.
I feel like I forgot about this. What is it?
These.
Oh, the pretzels. Yes, those are good. 2 bags of them. That's like
3
me. Do you
bags.
remember when I used to have all the chewing gum?
Yeah,
And I would order on Amazon like bulk packages of
I did that
Trident,
too.
and I was chewing so much of that gum that was like sugary gum that it fucked up my molars, and I was so sensitive for a while.
See, I did. What type of gum did you get?
It was called
Mint?
Trident Vibes, and they're like cubes, and they like tasted like crack. Like it was like Sour
What
Patch.
flavor though?
It was like Sour
Oh.
Patch type stuff. So I was
See,
chewing it, and like I would not go to the gym without a couple pieces of gum. I wouldn't do this thing without a
sure.
couple pieces of gum. Like whatever, I was always chewing gum, and eventually it caught up to me, and I had to quit, and I had to give all my gum away.
Yeah. Did I got mine was watermelon gum, so it was like super sweet, which because I have a sweet tooth, and
Yes.
it fucked up my teeth. I got super sensitive teeth. Did I rat list on here the article about the Jimmy Butler thing, or did I just talk about that?
I think you bitched about it on the
Pregame?
pregame. Yeah.
Well, I'll rat list it here too. Rat list these fucks who aggregated my article like pieces of shit because they got me in trouble on Twitter and I didn't even do anything. So these fuckers put this out. Celtics predicted to cut ties with Jimmy Butler via trade to Celtics, and they aggravated my article, which was doing a Jimmy Butler trade for every team just for the exercise of doing it. And in that article, I put the Celtics in the tier of technically possible, but will never happen. And said technically, if the Celtics got a third team involved, they could make this deal happen financially, but they would never do it. Trading Jaylen Brown for Butler makes 0 sense. Conversation over. and that was the article. And this person said that was a prediction and said crafted a proposal and this would happen and like that like they could trade for him. But no. And then they put my like technicality at the very bottom of their article after titling it predicted to cut ties. Fuck you. That's not what I said. It's not what I did. And that's a disgusting misaggregation of what was written. It's spreading fake news. It's absolute garbage, and it's ridiculous. And somebody on Twitter, well, it's just fucked up. Because then somebody on Twitter goes, "Is my brother? Is this fake, or do you need Jesus?" Because they screenshotted, according to Simone, the Heat would receive Jaylen Brown, Celtics would get Butler, and then the Pistons would be a third team. And I responded like, "No, absolutely not." And then he like eventually came back and was like, "Oh, I get it now. Like, you're good, fair enough." But like, these sites are ridiculous, man. It's fucking unbelievable. And the best part is, I was texting my boss about it, and as soon as I wrote it, he literally goes, "Can't wait for Sporting News' article on this as a prediction," and it fucking happened. Awful. Sporting news sucks.
Oh,
Garbage.
it's just tough because truly that's how some people have to make their money. It's not perfect. It's not exactly how you have to do it, but it's when you're pay by click, one of the easiest ways to guarantee that you get paid. That dude is probably raking in the money right now.
Garbage. That's all I got. I don't have any other else. Do you have anything else?
Wrap it up.
Okay. We can wrap there. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it very much. Make sure to leave a like. Also, I tried something new on Spotify. If you're a Spotify listener, I think a video went up on Spotify, or I tried to, or no, I think I got rid of it. I was gonna do the video on Spotify, but I ended up just like leaving it as the audio only. I think it could get awkward if there's videos, but if you're a Spotify listener, comment here and say like, would you like it? Does it not matter? Are you audio only? But we have that option now. So if it's something you want,
can comment on Spotify.
Oh yeah, comment on Spotify then if you want the video, or just comment on Spotify to say hello. But anyways, leave a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Leave us a 5 stars if you're on Spotify, and I'll let Sam wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening and watching. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, comment, tell us what you thought of the West Coast trip, tell us what you think of Bradley Beal, and so on. We do appreciate all you guys listening, so hit the bell. We're here every single day. Full pods like this one drop Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Game recaps are up the morning after each game, and other videos are on the channel in between to keep you up to date with all things Celtics. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple, like Jack said. Make sure you give us a follow there because all pods and recaps will go into your feed. Leave a 5-star review, leave a comment. We'd appreciate that very, very much. The socials are How About Them C's for Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Facebook is just the name of the podcast. All streams are there. They're on YouTube. They're on Twitter. You can find us via email. The HBTC pod email is always open. We read them on every pod. If you also want to get in touch with us, you can use Twitter. At Jackson NBA is Jack. At Sam LaFrance NBA is me. That's it for us.
Tic-tac-toe.